Everyone's cheering the headlines. Housing inventory up, more listings in 2026. But what if I told you that more listings don't actually mean more affordable homes are hitting the market? It's a critical distinction the mainstream media is completely missing, and it impacts every buyer and seller in the country. We saw national inventory up 2.3% year-over-year in April 2026, according to the latest data, with absorbed listings up 17.5%. That sounds great, right? More homes, more sales. But peel back the layers, and you'll find a different story playing out, especially in places like Boise, Austin, and even parts of the Phoenix metro. The problem isn't just about how many homes are for sale, but which homes and why they're listed now. This isn't the easy fix for affordability everyone hopes for. So, what's really going on beneath the surface of these inventory numbers? And what does it mean for your next move? All right, let's talk inventory. Because if you've been scrolling through real estate headlines, you've probably seen the buzz. More listings are coming. Inventory is finally rising. And sure, from the pandemic lows of early 2022, we've seen a measurable bump. But here's the kicker. National inventory, even with its recent 2.3% year-over-year climb, adding about 1,600 homes daily, still remains stubbornly below pre-pandemic levels. This isn't just about the sheer number of houses for sale, though. Bill McBride over at Calculated Risk, who famously called the 2005 market top partly on rising inventory, has been drilling into this concept of liquidity. He argues that while listings might be up, what truly matters for a healthier market is how quickly those homes are actually moving. And in 2026, we're seeing a fascinating, almost contradictory trend. Absorbed listings, that's the measure of how many homes are actually being taken off the market, jumped 17.5% recently. New pendings are also up. So, are we actually seeing more inventory, or just a more liquid market where homes are moving faster, but maybe not actually solving the underlying affordability crisis? We're going to dive into what analysts like Robert Dietz at NAB are calling a cautious optimism for 2026, especially with whispers of modest rate cuts. But don't get it twisted, affordability is still a beast. In California, for example, the median mid-tier home is hitting $775,000, more than double the national average. So what's really going on with all these new listings? Is it a genuine improvement or a mirage? Let's unpack it. Still significantly below pre-pandemic levels. We're talking 795,921 homes nationally right now, according to the latest HousingWire data from April 2026, even with that 2.3% year-over-year bump, which translates to roughly an additional 1,635 homes added to the market daily. Now, this is where the conversation gets interesting and, frankly, a bit more nuanced than the simplistic headlines suggest. Bill McBride, the astute analyst over at the Calculated Risk newsletter, has been tracking this phenomenon with impressive foresight. He actually coined the term the housing inventory illusion, and it's a critical framework for truly understanding the market dynamics of 2026. McBride, who famously leveraged inventory movements to accurately predict the market shifts as early as late 2005, points out that while inventory did hit unprecedented record lows in early 2022 and has increased steadily since, we are still operating with a far tighter supply relative to historical norms. For example, in April 2026, single-family inventory saw a modest 2.4% year-over-year increase across the top 50 metropolitan areas. That's growth, certainly, but it's a significant slowdown compared to the robust 15 to 20% annual increases we consistently observed throughout 2024 and 2025. It's definitely not the flood of new listings that many, including some major institutional investors, were hoping for. What does this all fundamentally mean? McBride argues that the current narrative isn't about raw inventory numbers suddenly solving the pervasive affordability crisis for first-time buyers. Instead, it's about something else entirely: improving market liquidity. This distinction is absolutely crucial, because as we move deeper into 2026, the market is less about the sheer quantity of available homes and far more about the velocity of transactions. It's a subtle but profoundly powerful shift from simply more homes on the market to more homes that are actually moving and finding buyers. This is where we need to shift our focus from just the sheer number of homes to market liquidity. Bill McBride, over at Calculated Risk, has been hammering this point home. He argues that the real story for the 2026 housing market isn't just inventory levels. It's this improving liquidity, the actual flow of homes. Think about it. Sure, national inventory is up that 2.3% year-over-year according to the latest HousingWire data, sitting at 795,921 homes. But here's the crucial detail that the more listings crowd often misses. Absorbed listings, homes that actually went under contract, shot up a significant 17.5% year-over-year. And new pendings, those newly accepted offers, also saw a measurable increase. What does that tell us? It tells us homes are actually transacting. It's like comparing a pond to a river. A pond can have a lot of water, but if it's stagnant, nothing's really moving. A river might have less water at any given point, but it's flowing. That's the difference here. This rise in absorbed listings and new pendings, alongside increased inventory, means we have a more functional, more liquid market. It's not just a bunch of homes sitting there with no buyers. For example, if you look at a market like Boise, which saw a surge in inventory in 2024, the key was when those listings started to actually move, even if prices softened. Now, does this mean affordability is suddenly fixed? Not according to Realtor.com's 2026 housing forecast, published December 2nd, 2025. They're projecting a steadier housing market, not a dramatic shift towards widespread affordability. The implication is clear. While homes are moving, the underlying price points and demand dynamics aren't fundamentally changing to make housing broadly more affordable for many. This brings us squarely to the elephant in the room: mortgage rates. To the latest HousingWire data from April 2026. This isn't just about the number of homes, it's about how quickly they're moving, which brings us to perhaps the biggest variable of all: mortgage rates. Now, affordability. You'd think with more homes, prices would dip, right? Not so fast. The shifting sands of mortgage rates are still defining purchasing power. Realtor.com's 2026 housing forecast, published back in December 2025 by Danielle Hale and her team, projected average mortgage rates for this year to be around 6.3%. That's a significant improvement from the peaks we saw in late 2023, and it's why analysts like those at Anderson Realty Group are forecasting that housing affordability is expected to improve in 2026, continuing momentum from 2025. However, it's not a straight line down. Edge Realty's Home Affordability 2026 article notes that mortgage rates, despite some downward movement, remain elevated due to ongoing global uncertainty. They cite this uncertainty as the single greatest driver behind those persistent elevated rates, impacting the affordability narrative even amidst other market improvements. Robert Dietz, chief economist for the NAB, noted cautious optimism for 2026, anticipating modest reductions in mortgage rates and monetary easing. But here's the rub. Even a quarter-point drop might not move the needle enough for a family in San Diego facing a median home price well over $1 million. While a 6.3% rate is better than 8%, for many, it's still pricing them out of the market they could have entered just 3 years ago. This tension between slowly improving rates and persistent high home values means that even small shifts have massive consequences, especially when we start looking at specific regions. The challenge of affordability is starkly different when you zoom in on specific regions, and nowhere is this more evident than in California. According to Alex Bentz's California Housing Affordability Tracker, published on April 20th, 2026, for the eContax blog, the state continues to grapple with persistently high housing costs. Think about this. A mid-tier home in California is priced at approximately $775,000. Compare that to the typical mid-tier U.S. home price, and you're looking at more than double the cost. It's no wonder that, for first-time buyers in California, the dream of homeownership remains a significant challenge, far outpacing any national improvements in affordability. As of April 2026, The California Association of Realtors reported the statewide median home price at a staggering $914,810, with a 30-year fixed mortgage rate hovering around 6.54% as of May 2026, according to Bankrate. Even a modest bump in national inventory or a slight dip in rates doesn't move the needle for a market like California. Redfin's data from March 2026 showed just 103,574 homes for sale statewide. This isn't just about a limited number of listings. It's about a structural imbalance that general market shifts simply can't overcome. While other regions might find some semblance of market balance, California exemplifies how deep-seated regional affordability issues defy broad strokes. Even up north, the CMHC Housing Market Outlook 2026 for Canada projects a recovery, but with resale markets remaining below long-term averages and housing starts slowing into 2027 to 2028. This further underscores the regional variation in recovery, echoing California's unique struggles. It's a testament to how the inventory illusion plays out differently, leading us into the mixed signals of 2026. Where some markets face strong headwinds, while others find glimmers of hope. Now, shifting gears, because while those regional specifics are crucial, nationally, we're seeing some truly mixed signals. It's like the market can't quite decide if it wants to accelerate or apply the brakes. According to NAB Economics, in an article published February 17, 2026, the housing market is undeniably facing ongoing challenges. They point to significant headwinds like economic policy uncertainty and a softening labor market. Think about it. When people are unsure about their jobs or the broader economy, big purchase decisions like a home get put on hold. Despite these strong headwinds, NAB chief economist Robert Dietz expressed cautious optimism. His reasoning? Anticipated modest reductions in mortgage rates and some monetary easing, which he believes will provide a much-needed tailwind. But here's where the counterpoint emerges. Edge Realty's Home Affordability 2026 article notes that elevated mortgage rates from multiple global pressures have actually reversed a prior downward trend, adding a layer of economic uncertainty. It's this push and pull that makes 2026 so fascinating. Remember 2025? Anderson Realty Group noted it was the best year for affordability in 3 years. The hope was that this momentum would carry into 2026 with increased inventory and lower rates. However, the CMHC Housing Market Outlook 2026 for Canada offers a sobering perspective that echoes south of the border. While resale markets might show signs of recovery, they're projected to remain below long-term averages. And critically, housing starts are slowing significantly. This paints a picture of a complex, regionally varied outlook where cautious optimism is indeed the prevailing sentiment, but definitely not a guarantee. It's a market still searching for its equilibrium. To the latest Housing Wire data from April 2026, this isn't just about the number of homes, it's about how quickly they're moving, which brings us to perhaps the biggest variable of all: mortgage rates. Now, affordability. You'd think with more homes, prices would dip, right? Not so fast. The shifting sands of mortgage rates are still defining purchasing power. Realtor.com's 2026 Housing Forecast, section Regional Disparities. California's continued crunch. The challenge of affordability is starkly different when you zoom in on specific regions, and nowhere is this more evident than in California. According to Alex Bentz's California Housing Affordability Tracker, published on April 20, 2026, for the eContax blog, the state continues to grapple with persistently high housing costs. Think about this. A mid-tier home in California is priced at approximate section Headwinds and Hope. The mixed signals of 2026 foot. Now, shifting gears, because while those regional specifics are crucial, nationally, we're seeing some truly mixed signals. It's like the market can't quite decide if it wants to accelerate or apply the brakes. According to NAB Economics, in an article published February 17, 2026, the housing market is undeniably facing ongoing challenges. They point to significant headwinds like economic policy. So, what does this all tell us about the 2026 housing market? It's not simply about more inventory. That 2.4% rise in total single-family inventory this April is certainly an improvement in liquidity from the pandemic lows, as Bill McBride at Calculated Risk has highlighted. But for the average American family, especially those in high-cost metros like San Francisco or Austin, an increase in listings doesn't automatically translate to greater access or affordability when the median price is still so far out of reach, even with slightly stabilizing rates. We're seeing a market that's moving more homes, with absorbed listings up 17.5%. But the fundamental disconnect between wages and home prices, particularly for first-time buyers battling generational wealth gaps, remains the core challenge. So, for those of you feeling the lock-in effect or struggling to save for a down payment in places like Phoenix or Miami, how have the shifting inventory and rate environments impacted your personal housing strategy? Drop your story in the comments below. And if you want to stay ahead of these complex market dynamics, make sure you hit that subscribe button for more data-driven real estate analysis. If you found this breakdown valuable, my deep dive into the real numbers behind the latest proposed changes to flood insurance premiums in Florida is exactly the next thing you should watch.